Welcome to the Awareness Angle, where we break down the latest cybersecurity stories and look at what they really mean for awareness, behaviour, and staying safe. This week, we're kicking things off with the Co-op cyber incident, an update from M&S, and as we record this, Harrods have also been hit. 3 big names dealing with very public problems. We'll also cover a PlayStation Store scam, password spraying attacks, WhatsApp's new privacy features, and a CEO who probably should have kept quiet. All of that and a whole lot more on this week's The Awareness Angle. This Thursday sees the release of our second Awareness Angle interviews. The reception to the conversation with Erin has been brilliant. That was the last one. Erin Gallagher, she doesn't fish, and it was a really good conversation about why she doesn't fish and what she does instead and what she wished she could do. The next one is with Jasmine from the Zensory, and it's a really good conversation around mindfulness and security and our instincts, like real primal actions, like what happens deep inside our heads when we click or when we're under pressure, how vulnerable we are. It's a really, I came away from it kind of enlightened. So
that does sound really interesting.
It's interesting. It went places I wasn't expecting it to go. As you will see by kind of it closed off with a minutes of mindfulness and kind of meditation. So it was interesting. But we touched on neurodiversity a bit as well and how different people are triggered in different ways. So it's a really interesting conversation. So that's going to be on the normal podcast feed. That will show as the next episode after this one. And that's out Thursday, the Awareness Angle interviews with Jasmine from the Zensory. And with me as always to discuss and chew it all over is Mr. Luke Pettigrew. Hello, Luke.
Hey, Eds. Hey, everyone.
How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You've had a good week.
How about you?
Have you had a good week?
Yeah, not too bad. Weather's been good here in the UK, so it's not too bad.
I've had a good week. Some people have had a very bad week this week. I mean, There's people having bad weeks every week, but very publicly here in the UK, it's been a very big cyber news week. So
big spate of UK retailers.
So last week we went into detail about M&S, and I was probably overly critical of the comms that they'd sent out. There hasn't been a lot since, which is quite interesting. So, there's, for anyone that isn't familiar, for the last over a week now, Marks and Spencer's have been dealing with a significant cyber incident. It would appear very little confirmed in the press, lots of speculation, all leading to certain things. And then, yesterday it was announced that Co-op, which is another retailer, smaller in size, more local, lots of smaller stores. They're suffering from a cyber attack. And then just this afternoon, this is Thursday, it was announced that Harrods have also restricted access to some of their IT systems as they are suffering from a suspected cyber attack.
Yeah, it's all happening this week.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
It's all happening. And for those of you that don't know, I haven't actually said this is an independent podcast. Our views are our own. So if we say something you don't like, blame us, not the people that pay us. So Luke and I both work kind of for retailers. So it's quite a scary time. It's quite, this is very real. So, it's not very nice.
No.
The latest that came out today was that staff at the Co-op have been told to keep their cameras on in meetings. I mean, that's, clearly they don't trust who might be on these calls. You would think.
Yeah, seems to be the case.
And that in itself, like, you don't know who might be turning up for your meetings. That says a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading on it, Co-op's IT systems have been shut down, remote access has been disabled, and I know Marks and Spencer's also locked out working from home employees at the weekend. Previous employees have been instructed to come in and work from physical locations if needed. They've said it's had a small impact on call centres and back office, but there has been reports in both Marks and Spencer's and Co-op of supply chain issues. If you dig around on the internet, there's all kinds of comments about temperature monitoring and stock issues and stuff like that. So it's the disruption on this is significant, isn't it?
Yeah, not just your sort of typical IT system, it's the whole business.
Yeah. I mean, I feel sorry for those that are dealing with this. I mean, they've called in all the big guns, you know, according to reports. CrowdStrike are there and NCSC are there, and I think Co-op probably would have done the same.
I think even Microsoft said there's some of these stories about Microsoft being involved.
Yes, Phoenix 24 as well, I think, were the other name that was mentioned on Bleeping Computer. So they're putting out all the stops. The closest I've ever been to something like this, and I've probably mentioned this before on the podcast, was when WannaCry hit, and we were defending against its impending effect. And like I ended up working Friday night, all day Saturday, and overnight and Sunday. Yeah, so that was like a 36-hour weekend. These guys have been at it for over a week, so it's I can't even imagine. There'll be like husbands and wives that haven't seen their partners for days, and people that haven't seen their kids. So real empathy for anyone. I know a couple of people at Co-op and one person at Marks, so I haven't spoken to them, but feel really sorry for the teams there that are having to deal with it. It's
definitely
worrying times. So does make you wonder who's going to be next, doesn't it? Which is scary.
Get some updates in this by the end of this week and some next week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm just looking the reports. They've been told to Co-op, apparently, according to the BBC, have been told not to record or transcribe team calls. Email implies Co-op is worried about the presence of hackers, according to a cybersecurity consultant. So yeah, they literally, it's like they can't trust that people aren't in, which is scary. The BBC report does say these kinds of tactics were used by a group called Lapsus, which was made up of the English-speaking teenagers. And M&S is being linked to a potential spin-off from Lapsus known as Scattered Spider, which has been responsible for attacks MGN Grand Casino and Transport for London. I think both of which we've talked about on the podcast previously. Yeah. So, yeah, scary times. Look, we won't dwell over that. There's lots still emerging. There'll be, as that kind of all comes out, there'll probably be way more. By the time you're listening to this, 4 days after recording, I imagine things would have changed. So, we won't go into it much more now. But, if you are at the Co-op, at Marks and Spencer's, or at Harrods, or at the next company to get hit, thoughts are with you. All of us are. So, right. Shall we move on to the next one, which I think is yours, sir?
Yeah. So, this is a story that I found. I saw it on TikTok originally. It's like a short clip, I guess, of money saving expert, everyone's favorite in the UK, Martin Lewis. So this was about the phone number 159 in the UK.
Never heard of it.
Neither have I until then. But it's a service where you can call it up and talk to your bank safely, which is it's like a redirecting number, I guess.
Wow.
So over 1 million calls apparently have been logged with that since 2021.
That's amazing.
But I never heard of it, like you. So it's like an anti-scam hotline, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, essentially you dial 159 and tell them your bank. It's like automated, telling your bank's name, and it will redirect you to their customer service line. So something to remember if you're contacted out the blue.
That's incredible. Because just a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember why now, but my mum needed to call the bank. Because she got an email and she needed to call the bank, so she had to find the number. And the problem is, with what we've spoken about previously about dodgy Google ads and stuff like that, you find something. I've found a number before for Virgin Media, which is an internet service provider here in the UK. And the number I found on Google was actually like a premium rate redirection service. So it was costing me more. And whoever had put that was redirecting my call, but was making money off it. So it's like even that, even though it was connecting, it was still costing me more than it should have done because Virgin's numbers like local rate. So this 159, why is this not bigger news? I've never heard of this.
No, I've not seen any advertising for it at all.
No.
But yeah, it's similar to 111 and 101. And yeah, it costs the same as a national call, it says. Free if you have inclusive minutes.
Wow.
But yeah, it's designed to prevent scams by offering this trusted and non-spoofable way of reaching your bank. So yeah, it's sort of the scenario of where you get called by someone, you're not sure if it's really your bank. You hang up and call 159 and get straight through to them, and you can sort of discuss it with them and know that you're on the right phone line.
It's great. I think that's great. And it's something I'm going to tell my mum about. And I think actually that should be a thing now. If you need to call your bank, just call 159. All the banks should advertise that, because now you don't have to try and find their number or find a statement or something like that. So that's brilliant. It's brilliant. I wonder if I'm just looking actually, hang on, let's see. So
I don't think it's every single bank at the moment.
Well, I've just found the list, and this might not be complete, but it does look pretty inclusive. Bank of Scotland, Barclays, Cooperative Bank, Chase, First Direct, Halifax, HSBC, Lloyds Bank, Metro Bank, Modular Finance, Monzo, Nationwide Building Society, NatWest, Revolut, Royal Bank of Scotland, Santander, Starling, Tide, TSB, and Ulster Bank, which
does sound pretty comprehensive.
It's pretty comprehensive. Yeah. So, Monzo, Revolut, Starling, Tide, they're not the big high street traditional banks. So it's got some of the more modern ones on it.
Quite new as well, aren't they?
I think that's brilliant. So, yeah. Good catch.
That's one to favourite in your phone, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. 159. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Good spot. That's great. Cool. People, like, if you have people in your business that you're doing awareness for, tell them about 159. It's a really good way to keep them secure, and it's a really good message to spread out, for them to spread out to their loved ones and extended family as well. So that's great.
Yeah, definitely. I'll move on to the next story. I think it's my one again. So this is one about WhatsApp adding some chat privacy features to block exporting and auto-downloading of media. So this is something they've introduced recently. It applies to individual and group chats as well. So it's a feature, that basically sort of tries to protect your conversations a bit, although you can still take a screenshot or download the media. So it's not it doesn't cover every base, but
so it's similar to the sexploitation we spoke about last week, where like you can't take a screenshot on Snapchat, but there's a way. So this is at least a bit of a barrier to defend against that in some way.
Yeah, and that seems to be the case. Like, I guess this as well potentially protects you if you get like a random WhatsApp with some media, stops it from just downloading to your phone.
Right.
I mean, typically it's just photos. I don't think it does photos and videos probably. I can't imagine it downloads much else straight away, but yeah, I just thought it was interesting feature that's rolling out on the latest version. I don't think there's much more to really talk about with this story, to be honest. But if you're a WhatsApp user, I guess I want to look at it, maybe enable it.
Yeah, we'll put more details of that and all of the stories we talk about on the podcast in the newsletter, which comes out every Monday alongside every episode. It contains details of the story and gives you the awareness angle on them. If you haven't got the newsletter yet, what you're doing, you can sign up for it by searching the awareness angle on LinkedIn, or go to riskycreative.com and you can sign up there to get it in your inbox every Monday morning. It's a good story. It's good. It's nice to see Meta doing something good with privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, move on to the next one. I think It's my last story.
It's you again.
So yeah, this one, I've not seen this before, but it's an Apple sends out spyware attack notifications to targeted users. This is something that seems to be dedicated to particular people. I'm not quite sure how that works, to be honest, but it's a notification that comes through that says that Apple's detected targeted mercenary spyware attack against your phone.
Right.
It says here about an Italian journalist, Ciro Pellegrino, and Dutch political commentator, Eva, and I can't pronounce that last name.
Go on, do it. Have a go. Go on.
Vladingerberg?
Yeah, I would have gone with that. Vladingerberg. Yeah. Apologies, Eva, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but you might be.
But yeah, apparently they received an alert about being specifically targeted about spyware attack.
There's a video here. Do you want to share it? So I don't know. It's quite long. We won't show it all, but let's let me just share the video here.
So it's a feature I've not heard of before, to be honest.
No, I haven't, and I'm an Apple user, so yeah, this will be interesting. This is a video off X, so I think X is broken. Hang on.
Hi, everyone. So yesterday I got 2 messages from Apple stating that they detected a mercenary spyware attack against my iPhone. First, I thought it was fake. I got 2 of these messages, and I thought it's probably not real. But upon further research, it turns out that these messages actually are real, and so that this is actually happening. And in the message, they say that this targeted mercenary spyware attack is probably happening because of who I am and what I do. And then they continue to say that mercenary spyware attacks, such as Pegasus, for example, are exceptionally rare and that they're extremely sophisticated. They use really strong words. They're saying that the extreme cost, sophistication, and worldwide nature of mercenary spyware.
I've got a couple of comments about this, and we'll put links to this in the newsletter. Obviously, she shared. I don't know. So she said screenshots. This whole UI doesn't. I don't know. Like, I'm looking at this, and I can't tell what app it's arrived in. Like, it's not an iMessage. It's not an email. So, like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's definitely an Apple, it looks Apple-y, but, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The other interesting thing about this, and call me cynical, she looks quite AI. And maybe it's just the tone of the video or a filter or something like that. I don't know, but
hi everyone. So
maybe
yesterday I got
maybe if I was more familiar with who she was, she wouldn't look like AI. So apparently this was first an email and then an iMessage, exactly as Apple describes on this document. So she's shared some additional screenshots, which is good. So okay, she's accessed it via logging into a browser. Who logs into I didn't even know you could log into account.apple.com on a browser. So that's interesting. And there's an email. So yeah.
Yeah, never heard of that before, but caught my eye.
Yeah, like she said, I mean, Pegasus from the NSO group, that's typically the one that is targeted at politicians, journalists. Like, it's very targeted, very strategic, very, you're making noises in the space that they don't like if they're looking at you. I think that's kind of how I would probably.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Interesting. That's a good one.
Oh yeah. Move on to your stories.
Yeah, the next one was mine, and this was a story from Forbes, and this was Microsoft confirms password spraying attack. And Forbes basically state that the Microsoft threat intelligence team has published a new warning after observing hackers have taken particular advantage of unsecure workload identities in order to gain access to containerized environments. So quite tech. Microsoft research shows that 51% of such workload identities being completely inactive over the last year. It's no wonder that threat actors are exploiting this attack surface. So as the adoption of containers as a service among organizations rise, the report said Microsoft Threat Intelligence continues to monitor the unique security threats that affect containerized environments. The attacks leverage non-interactive sidings that often bypass 2FA, making it challenging for security teams to detect these unauthorized access attempts. They're typically used for service-to-service authentication. So these are service accounts, and they do not trigger 2FA in many configurations, which means the attack can pretty much go largely undetected and poses a significant threat to organizations who rely on Microsoft 365, which is Marks and Spencers and Co-op. But I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that this is anything related to those. A lot of companies run Microsoft. Most companies probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, this method exploits legacy authentication protocols, particularly basic authentication, which Microsoft has deprecated but has not yet fully retired. So, password spraying, this is one to tell your tech teams, shout this far and wide and make sure that you're not vulnerable to it. And there's more information. This Forbes reported it, but the full Microsoft, we'll put a link into the full Microsoft report, because that's fairly detailed and gets right into the kind of details about it. Of course it does, because it's fairly detailed. There's a full case study here. So have a look at that. We'll put details of that in the show notes. Moving on. Microsoft is continuing to push Windows 11 Copilot, the PCs, as Windows 10 support winds down. So they're pushing again that people need to upgrade to a new PC, new Copilot Plus PC with advanced AI capabilities, because obviously Windows 10 support ends on October the 14th, 2025. There's a couple of things that get me on this. So the end of support for Windows 10, obviously, which is going to leave all of those Windows 10 devices vulnerable unless you pay for additional support. So those, if you're running a Windows 10 computer after October the 14th, you're going to be vulnerable to cyber attacks and hacks and vulnerabilities. Whilst eligible Windows 10 PCs can upgrade to Windows 11 for free, many of the older devices don't meet the hardware requirements. They don't have TPM 2.0, for example. And for these, so if your device isn't, and Windows will tell you if your device isn't compatible, Microsoft suggests you purchase a new PC with Copilot Plus. And then you can take full advantage of Windows 11 AI features, including recall, which we've spoken about before. If you don't know what recall is, listen to last week's episode. And the week before, actually. I think we mentioned it then as well. So Microsoft does offer a paid extended security updates program for Windows 10 users. However, that is only temporary, because Windows 11 is where the long-term support will be. And this was the interesting one as well. And I'm surprised there's not more noise on this, right? Because if this was Apple, I think there'd have been more noise about this. Microsoft are all of a sudden stopping supporting Windows 10, 14th October. 240 million PCs may become obsolete overnight. 240 million PCs. I'm looking at two right here. Like, the PC I do this on is fully supportive, but the one I've got there that like is my home server, that's not. And I've got the hardware isn't, and I'm not going to buy new hardware for that. So I'm going to have to do my best, and I'm not going to pay for support either. Now I'm a target. I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to pay for support. or I'm going to upgrade the PC.
Yeah,
But
a nice fancy new one.
Yeah. Microsoft does advise you recycle your old devices responsibly. So, cheers, Microsoft. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the environmental impact of them no longer supporting an operating system that once was going to be the last operating system you'd ever need and is perfectly working fine, just can't do all the AI fluffy stuff.
Yeah.
There's ways around it, right? You can install Windows 11 using Rufus, I think it's called, which is an installer that basically tells the installer you've got all of the hardware requirements, and it works fine without TPM, and it works fine without the NPM chip or the Neuro program chip, or whatever it's called. So it's Microsoft purposely. I don't know whether they're trying to get in the hardware game more, but it's Microsoft don't have to be doing this, but they are. So yeah, it's worrying. Yeah. It's not very good. It's a bad show, no. Microsoft. Right. That's all of the big news stories, but we've got some little news stories. So let's run through the rest of this week's top security stories. What could be behind the Iberian power outage? So earlier this week, a major blackout across Spain, Portugal, and parts of France sparked cyber attack rumours, fueled by Spain's Prime Minister, as they said it couldn't be ruled out, though grid operator Red Eléctrica denied it. The outage halted trains, ATMs, traffic lights, leading to a national and EU investigations. The cause was later tied to a sudden, unexplained 50% drop in solar power within 5 minutes. Experts say low grid inertia made the system fragile, raising fresh questions about the resilience of renewables, heavy energy grids. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, everybody that's against renewable energy is going to say, oh, this is why you can't trust solar. I mean, this is the first case we've ever had, if that is the reason. It's the first case that I know where it's had a significant impact. They'll obviously learn from this. The interesting comments I saw, there was some narrative I saw on LinkedIn around this saying, even if it wasn't a cyber attack, because everyone was distracted, does that mean that all of a sudden cyber attackers were poking holes in, and it might not have been noted in the way it was? Were they sneaking in through the back door, like the typical distraction technique? Do you know what I mean? It used to be back in the day that attackers would DDoS as a distraction, and then they'd like use the distraction to get in the other way. So the FBI seeks public tips about Salt Typhoon. So the FBI is offering $10 million for tips on Salt Typhoon, a major Chinese hacking campaign targeting US telecoms. Officials fear the breach is wider than known, exposing deep-rooted weaknesses in a sector only recently brought under breach reporting rules. The appeal highlights gaps in intel and heavy reliance on cooperation from telecoms firms, still hampered by aging systems and lax security. PlayStation Store game scam. I saw this one this week. A scam on the PlayStation Store has tricked over 1,600 users into buying what looked like the popular PC game Schedule 1, but it was a fake. The imposter game, published under the name Publish Me Agency Limited, copied the branding of the original and was convincing enough to fool plenty of people. Once the scam was called out, the developer simply changed the name of the game from Schedule 1 to Weed Drug Empire. Not quite as catchy. And at the time of writing, it is still live on the store. It's another reminder that you can't always trust the platforms, how broken the vetting and refund process can be, especially when dodgy listings are allowed to slip through and then hang around, which is great. Cybersecurity CEO accused of running malware on a hospital PC blabs about it on LinkedIn. So Jeffrey Bowie, a cybersecurity CEO from Oklahoma, has been charged with installing spyware on a hospital computer at St. Anthony's Hospital in August 24. Bowie admitted on LinkedIn to using PowerShell to deploy software that captured screenshots every 20 minutes. The malware was found during a forensic review, but no patient data was accessed. Bowie faces 2 charges under Oklahoma's Computer Crime Act, though he denies being arrested and claims FBI agents contacted him about his AI services, not the hospital incident. That's that's an interesting one. You wouldn't steal a font. This is brilliant. So if you remember the infamous anti-piracy campaign from the early 2000s, which famously told viewers you wouldn't steal a car. Do you remember these? It used to be on the front of DVD, like on the pre-roll on DVDs and videos. You wouldn't steal a this, you wouldn't steal a that, you wouldn't steal a car. Basically to stop you pirating films. Well, apparently that anti-piracy campaign is under fire, as it was revealed that the font it used in the ads was pirated. Social media users uncovered that the campaign used X-Band Rough font, a clone of designer Just Van Rossum's licensed FF Confidential. Whilst there's no evidence the campaign designers knew the font was pirated, Van Rossum found the irony amusing, noting the campaign's wrong tone only adds to the humour. Despite the backlash, the campaign remains a pop culture staple, with spoofs still circulating. Yeah.
That's amazing.
The irony of that, the anti-piracy campaign pirated a font.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken so long to be found out.
Yeah. Oh God, I mean, that's years old. That is. I don't know. I don't know how old. Does it say when it first came out? Early 2000s. Oh, it appeared in cinemas and on DVDs around the world from 2004. 21 years ago.
Well, someone thought they got away with it.
Yeah, clearly. Malware steals 1.7 billion passwords, now for sale on the dark web. Info-stealing malware is on the rise. We've talked about it a lot over the past few weeks. From nowhere as well. It seems like now it's been mentioned in the last 2 or 3 episodes, and I don't think it was a popular topic before. There's been a 500% increase in attacks and 1.7 billion stolen passwords flooding dark web forums, fueling a wave of account takeovers and fraud. Despite the growing threat, Gen Z, we've said this before, Gen Z continues to ignore basic security practices, with 72% reusing passwords and 59% reusing them after security breaches, even though 79% of them know it's risky. Hang on. 72% reuse passwords, 59% reuse them after a security breach, 79% of Gen Z know that that's risky. Experts warn that stronger password policies and password managers are essential to combat this, but only 46% of Gen Z use them, leaving many vulnerable to rapidly evolving cyber threats. The whole culture around something needs to change, and I don't know what it is. The whole culture around passwords and account security is dreadful. Biometrics helps, but there's still a password there. Apple's password app, I thought that was going to be incredible. I don't use it. I haven't heard anyone mention it ever. So
yeah,
someone needs to.
I guess that's where passkeys will eventually be widely adopted.
Yeah. I mean, I use a password manager. I'm happy with it, but not everyone does. So yeah. Okay, so that was the news. Right, the comments section. I didn't bring anything, but let me just get something up. There was, we share our content on YouTube. We share our content on TikTok as well. So let me just there was a few interesting comments. Last week, I posted the story about the USB killer in the car that fried all the electronics. I think I clipped the clip too hard because many people thought that it was my daughter that plugged in the USB and it was my car that was fried. That's not the case. It wasn't my daughter. She is fine. Some of the comments we had is, so the daughter is paying off for years now. Someone said, I mean, still can try warranty. No one has to know. we had a comment that said it's a design fault from the car manufacturers to not isolate your USB port from the ECU. Too many systems are connected with the car's functions. Audio and navigation should be separate. I'm sorry, whose car in 2025 USB port isn't on a fuse? Car must be 20 years old. Find me a 20-year-old car that has a USB port.
Yeah.
I wonder what the first car to have a USB port was. That'd be interesting. We had some comments. We uploaded the Microsoft recall. There were some comments around that. Someone said Windows 10 without Defender updates and Office 2021 without updates will be 100% viable and usable for the next 10 years minimum. By that point, we'll have alternatives. Usable, yes, but hugely vulnerable. You don't want to be using a 10-year-old. Let's rock out Windows Vista, shall we? Or Windows 7's gone now, thank God. But yeah. Regarding the USB killers, again, we had comments like, "Oh, these are fun to drop outside universities and office buildings." In the comment itself, I said the word. This was a prank because that's what the Reddit post had said. There was a little bit of kickback against that. People going, "This isn't a prank. This is criminal damage and stuff. This is not a prank." And it's like, yes, let's just double down on that. It's whilst it was probably intended as a prank, it's not a prank. Someone says it's no different than throwing a brick through the windshield. Okay. So maybe not as dangerous as throwing a brick through the window, but yeah. So that's this week's comments. If you can follow me on TikTok because it's me that posts them on TikTok. So just look for InfoSec on TikTok and you can find me. And that's all it's literally just clips from the show. I don't TikTok. There's no dances or anything on there. You'll be pleased to know.
You might have to do that. Get with Gen Z.
Yeah, you could do that. That's cool. You're the TikTok man. That's fine.
We'll do something around password managers.
Yes. Talking of password managers, if we move on to the next one is yours, sir.
Yes, this is a story I saw around the Cybersecurity Breaches Survey of 2025, where it stated that more than a quarter of businesses, 27%, still don't have a password policy compelling enough for users to set a strong password, which, as we know, is probably not what you want to have. Obviously, poor passwords is quite a big vulnerability, right? And just puts you open to your credentials being compromised. But 27% of businesses is quite a big number.
Yeah.
Do you think by these days, password policy is a pretty standard thing to have set?
You'd have thought, yeah.
A strong one as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, it does surprise me because it's pretty much out. Does it define what it means by password policy? Or is it literally
talking about length and complexity?
Wow, so that is, I'm surprised at that number because I thought basically using the systems that they would be using, they'd have been forced to by the Microsofts and the Googles of this world. So, yeah, that's frightening. 27% don't have a password policy.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is literally, so this is all businesses surveyed. So there could be a mixture of older businesses, more traditional businesses, less IT connected businesses. So we could be talking about, and I'm not being discriminative here, but we could be talking about woodworking shops. We could be talking about, engineering firms, mechanics, think companies that only literally have a computer for the accounts and a computer to check the email and a computer to look stuff up on Google. They're not businesses that are run online. But even then, it's still, you'd have thought their hands would have been forced somewhat to make this happen. It's frightening.
Yeah. I guess just some things to mention is about, there's certain points where the length, I guess, will, if it's too short, obviously that's going to be quite easy to crack, for example. But I guess a good standard is probably, 15 characters, and I know complexity is a bit of a disputed requirement. I think length is probably the most important thing. If it's long enough, it's going to be hard for someone to crack it.
Yeah. I'm just looking. If I trust, I should have got this in preparation, but if I trust Google's AI overview, which I shouldn't based on previous conversations, NIST's password guidelines, minimum 8 characters. Even saying that is a password policy. So these businesses don't even say that. Minimum 8 characters, recommended 15, maximum 64. NIST discourages requirements for special characters, mixed case, or specific character sets. So they go for length over complexity, which is the argument when we were working together, 5-6 years, we've said 15 characters, length over complexity.
Yeah. I'm surprised they've put the minimum of 8. That seems very low.
Yeah. I mean, I know, I can't remember exactly why. I'm sure it was some AD restriction or some database restriction. Definitely not on a modern version, but I'm sure there was a time when a password over 12 wasn't possible because it would break things. If anyone's listening and wants to put something in the comments wherever you're listening about what that was, I could probably find out. But there was definitely an issue on a system once within the last few years where we went to a 15-character password policy, and that was an issue for a system. Like there was one system that was an issue for because it couldn't handle something that long. I can't remember what that was though.
Yeah. I think as well, password managers like we've touched on, if you've got one, that's definitely the easiest way to have these strong passwords, I guess, as long as your master password is strong to begin with.
Yeah. My master password's 4 words, completely random. But I can picture it in my head, which is amazing. Yeah. No one else could picture it. You'd never, I don't think the chance of, you probably would be able to think of it, but I mean, they're familiar words, but throwing them together in kind of that order and the image it conjures is strange. So.
Cool.
Right. Awareness. So this week, or last week, if you're listening to this on Monday, of course, I was in Leeds and I went to Leeds Mini Digital Festival with Pentest people. And what a great session that was. It was really, really good. So I got the train up to Leeds and was part of a panel discussion. And on the panel was Jeremy McCourt, who's at Poundland, Nikki Whiting from Bulletproof, and then Chris Burton and Nathan Dove from Pentest People. And it was chaired by Brian Higgins, who is an absolute character. If you don't know if you've seen Brian host something, then you'd know. It was brilliant. But the conversation was great. I think it was meant to last an hour. It ended up lasting 2. And there was a great group of people there. And we talked about all things. We talked about AI. We talked about policy and risk and the human side of it, obviously. So yeah, it was really, really good. And the feedback on that's been great. So thank you to everyone at Pentest People for having me. Thanks for Mel for sorting that out as well. And thanks to all of the panel. It was really good to be a part of that. This week, is it this week? Yes, you're listening to this on Monday. Wednesday, 7th of May, I am on another panel. This one's a webinar. And this is for Think Cyber, Red Flags, and I'm joining Simon Meyer, who's the former CISO of the National Bank of Kuwait, and Phil Guest from Think Cyber. And this one's about how to win board level support. So it's how to communicate with the board and get them to understand the risks and everything that cyber brings with it. So it's going to be it's protecting from the top down is what it's called. So that'll be quite an interesting one. I think they're paying more attention, definitely in the UK. I think they'll be paying more attention this week than they ever have done, given, there's now 3 high profile cyber incidents in the news. So that's an interesting one. Do you know what? There's a thing, whenever we record this, I get signed out of my account. It must be a time thing, which is mad, because I've just been signed out again, but I've signed back in. It's fine. So yes, Wednesday, 7th of May, lunchtime, 12:30, online. Details are in the newsletter. Sign up, come along, and listen to us discuss how to engage from the top down, which should be good.
Cool, yeah.
And just announcing as well, the next one I've got coming up is the 12th of June, another virtual conference from the future of cybersecurity. And this is going to be a great one. There is Lee Morton, who is the head of cyber at CBG. Holly Foxcroft, who I followed on LinkedIn for ages. So she's a business partner at One Advanced. And the headline speaker at that event is Marcus Hutchins. Do you know what Marcus Hutchins' claim to fame is?
I've heard of him, and I've heard of it. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Marcus Hutchins is the guy that stopped WannaCry. So he was the guy that basically, it was the CNC server, I think, that he took down, or I knew that. I knew what Marcus did, but I should have brought it together and this is where preparation is great. What was he? Where is it? So yeah, WannaCry was of 2017. Was it that long ago? Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. So Hutchins had become aware of WannaCry in the afternoon of the 12th of May. And though he'd been on vacation, he began reverse engineering the code from his bedroom. And he discovered that the malware was tied to an odd-looking domain name, suggesting the malware would be part of a command and control structure. But to his surprise, the domain name was not registered. And he quickly registered the name and set up servers at Cryptos Logic within it to act as honeypots, allowing them to track the infected computers. So while WannaCry continued to spread over the next few hours, security researchers found that because Hutchins had registered the domain name when he did, WannaCry would not execute further, and it effectively became the worm's kill switch. So you could pretty much say Marcus saved the world, saved the internet pretty much, because WannaCry was mayhem. And Marcus, if you want to hear from the guy that saved the internet as we know it today, then 12th of June, Future of Cybersecurity virtual conference. I'm just the warm up, and then everyone else is above me. So one day I might be at the headline, but yeah, I'm just the warm up act for now.
Yeah, no, it's an impressive story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, details.
That's all your CV needs to be, right?
Yeah,
that's you.
Yeah, warm up for Marcus Hutchins and 2 other people, but they can be in the small print. Yeah, details of all that will be in the newsletter as well, and I'll be plastering on LinkedIn, so you'll probably see it. Right, I've got a few little things. This section is probably my favourite section of the episode, because this is where we get into the real fun stuff. Should probably cut this, right, and just deliver this as a separate bites or something like that, because this is the fun stuff. It's also the annoying part for you, because this is where you have to splice in a load of screenshots when you edit it and put it together. So this is where you're like, oh, how many are you doing this week?
Yeah.
Anyway, the first one I wanted to mention was from Kevin Beaumont, who was the security researcher that we talked about, who investigated all the Microsoft recall stuff. So his LinkedIn job title is Cyber Weatherman. I love that. So this is a little bit old now, but it's still relevant, right? Microsoft announced in a Friday night blog post that recall is rolling out to all compatible PCs over the next month. Tabletop scenario for you. An employee gets into a dispute with the employer, leaves, had a sensitive role. The employer revokes access, devices, etc. But the employee had logged in via BYOD to email, instant messenger, etc. Due to recall, the employee walks away with 6 months of screenshots of everything she's ever worked on in a text indexed form. Every email, chat, document, Teams call with video snapshots, transcripts of verbal calls, even if they set M365 to not store documents locally. What does your employer do now? Just to bring this right back to relevance and back to the story at the beginning of the show. If Co-op don't trust who's on their network because they're telling everyone to put their camera on in Teams, then imagine what the people on their network could do if every device had recall in the last 6 months of data and conversations.
Yeah.
It's
just search index for everything.
Everything. Just dump. Yeah. That's frightening. So it's an interesting position to think about recall. Yeah. Right. The next one I wanted to talk to you about was another LinkedIn post. And this is Joe Head. Joe Head is go-to-market strategies for cybersecurity startups and founders. And I thought this was a really, really interesting one. Taking pictures of people with their laptops open in public and passwords on show. I know it isn't best practice, but remember, most people don't work in cyber and are just trying to do their job. So number one, is this really what we want people to think cybersecurity is about? Gotcha moments, public shaming, playing security cop for likes. 2, someone answering work emails on a train probably isn't leaking top secret data. And even if they were, posting it on LinkedIn does more harm than good. It doesn't raise awareness. It raises fear and embarrassment. We say we want to make cybersecurity more accessible, more integrated into how people live and work, but then we turn around and post, look at this idiot stories. If the goal is to make change, we need to do better. Let's educate people rather than embarrass them. Otherwise, we're just proving to everyone that cybersecurity is something to hide from, not something to care about. So I'm all like within a business, within like naming and shaming people, showing people up for the mistakes they make. We've said this about phishing. Publicly shaming people for their poor behaviors isn't going to win you any fans, right?
Mm.
However, I was on the train this week and I think this is relevant. I've got a photo, but I'm not going to show it. I was going to, but in the light of just sharing that, I'm not going to. I was on the train this week from Stevenage to Leeds. Okay. It's a 2-hour train journey. And there's a guy sat on a table just across the aisle on his laptop. And he's got schematics on his laptop, detailed plans and schematics. And he gets up from his table and he walks off. 11 minutes he was away from his laptop, unlocked. His laptop was unlocked. 11 minutes he was gone for. Now, I don't know where he went, but I don't think he was in view. And his laptop did not lock at any point during that time. Now, for me, he needs I didn't educate him. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have tapped him on the shoulder and gone, hey, mate, can I give you some advice? I didn't do it, but I could have.
Now, I told you to go away.
For all I know, those schematics could have been something sensitive. They might have been secret. They might not have. They might have been someone's conservatory. It looked like an entrance to somewhere. So it looked I was quite impressed with what I was seeing. It looked really impressive. But that's 11 minutes. No one did, but anyone could have just sat down, done something on his computer and then walked off. 11 minutes is a mighty long time to do a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I personally wouldn't have even left my laptop out on the table.
Is the thing. So literally I got on the train and I needed to go to Lou. So before I did that, before I unloaded all my stuff, I took it with me. Backpack, off I go. I wouldn't even leave it there. I might have, I don't think I'd have even left. I definitely wouldn't have left it on the table. I might have put it in my bag and tucked it away, but I wouldn't have left it on the table. I definitely wouldn't have left it unlocked.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I wanted, and I'll just pull this up, on the back of the seat in front of me. So the lovely people at Pentest People paid for me to go first class, and it was wonderful. Thank you very much, Iman. Thank you very much for getting me a first class ticket. It was very much appreciated. On the back of the seat, this is what we had. Okay, welcome to your seat. QR code. This QR code should direct you to dashboard.lner.co.uk.
Yeah.
Do you know where this is going? Do you know what I'm about to tell you? Let me just, this photo's the wrong way round. And you do know where this is going because I sent a copy to you and I was pretend like, look at this.
I don't.
Let me just turn this round. Hang on. Again, not prepared at all. We only do this every week at the same time, but I'm still not prepared at all. So, welcome to your seat. This QR should direct you to dashboard.lner.co.uk. But then Apple's iPhone camera tells me that the link is actually going to is qr.lner.co.uk. And to make things worse, because that's LNER in lowercase, it could be INER, maybe even one NER. Like this is the problem with that, with the brand. Maybe it needs to be a different domain. I don't know. But then there's a whole, So straight away, I mean, it's legit. Okay. The destination it went to is legit. There's no sticker on top of a sticker. I mean, that whole sticker could have been fake, but the domains don't match. And it's wonderful that it tells you where it should direct you to. No one does that ever.
Yeah.
So well done, LNER, for putting on there that this QR code should direct you to dashboard.lner.co.uk, but it doesn't. It takes me to qr.lner.co.uk. So your stickers
trying to confuse you.
Oh, it's like,
Don't know which one to trust.
Again, it's just like, just makes our life harder, doesn't it? Which is really, really frustrating.
Best thing there is double check your work after you've done it in that way of making sure there's two match up.
Yeah. On the way back from Leeds, I was talking to Fatima, and Fatima was at the event and had been up in Leeds for a couple of days and was coming back to London. And it was great chatting with Fatima. She was someone that was there to attend the event, and we had a great chat about security on the way home and cyber and stuff. So hi, Fatima, if you are listening. And she said that she was on a train up there, and it wasn't this train, it was a different train journey. And there was a couple of kids that tried to jump on the train without a ticket, right? And the inspector intercepted them. And she was like, have you got a ticket? And they were like, no, because I've only got this much money. She's like, right, well, you have to get off or buy a ticket. She was like, oh, but I've only got this much money and I'm only going here. And the conductor said, you have to get off or you need to buy a ticket. And then there was a bit more. And then the conductor went, what decision are we going to make today? And I thought that line, like Fatima had taken that away with her and had remembered that. And I took that in that conversation when she was telling me that. I was like, oh my God, that's such a great statement. What decision are we going to make today? And it's not clunky that you want to build your whole awareness campaign. It's too long and too cumbersome to build your whole awareness campaign around. But just as a thought or as a topic of conversation, how many decisions do we make, like when we're clicking on links or where we're, scanning a QR code? And that question, what decision are we going to make today? Imagine if you asked yourself that before you did, when you get an email that makes you think, what decision am I going to make today? Is this red pill, blue pill? It's that kind of thing, isn't it? So I thought that was really, really good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I've got one last thing to mention. And this was, so Dan Williams shared this with me earlier. And on the back of our NHS SMS message that created quite a lot of buzz on LinkedIn, the one that you shared a couple of weeks ago. There's another one. And I know, it's unbelievable, right? And this one's older, like really older. Let me just see if I can find the image for this, because now I can't find the image. So there is apparently a service, and I can't believe I'm saying this, that this is like official. There's a service called Doctor Doctor.
Right.
So Doctor Doctor, again, is a third-party NHS service. And Doctor Doctor is used by a number of different agencies. I think a number of different hospitals use Doctor Doctor. But the text messages look just as risky. So this is used by multiple NHS trusts here in the UK. And there is information on this. Like there is a lot of information on it, but it does all of the messages. I can't find the image here, which is really frustrating. But essentially it comes from Doctor Doctor. The URL that it sends people to, and I've got a rough one here. Let me just share this for a second. The URL that it sends people to, again, isn't nhs.uk. It's nhs.my.
Oh, okay.
Which again just looks, here at the bottom of this, I'm showing an SMS on the screen, right? And this is from Doncaster and Bassett Law Teaching Hospitals. And this looks like a mock-up, but it essentially says you have a new appointment letter. Read it online at HTTPS. They've got an S in there. The last one didn't. https://nhs.my/random letters. This letter will be printed and sent to you soon. If you don't need a paper copy, reply digital or change your settings using the link above. Please visit the DBTH website for more information. And then the URL for the website is www.dbth.nhs.uk. So the URL to visit the website is right. The one to read the letter is nhs.my. Why have they got all these domains?
Confusing domains.
It's just, how are you meant to build trust when you can't even get that right? It's really, really bad. And that's, so Doctor Doctor is apparently a proper legitimate third-party service used by multiple hospital trusts. It's just a shame that they can't all put them under nhs.uk, which is the official website. It would make spoofing much harder if everyone went to the same place.
Yeah.
That's everything I had this week, I think. I've still done my train journey. I went to Leeds. Our sympathies go out to Co-op and Harrods and M&S. I think that's pretty much it. Did you have anything else, Luke?
It was just pictures to share. I can drop it in post, or you can share the screen. But it's just a funny upgrade, software update, patch notes that I saw shared at work.
Yeah,
for I think it's a karaoke machine, where it says that there's a firmware upgrade available, tells you the version number.
Yeah,
which is a 0.5.33, so not even a version 1. It's 1.81 gigabytes as well, but the update content description just looks like someone's just smashed the keyboard, and that's it.
It actually is ASDFKJ. Yeah, they have KJL. Yeah, someone's literally gone blah, 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 with the middle row of keys.
Yeah. So that's what was amazing.
It is amazing. How are you meant to trust it? Do you know the funniest thing about this, right? So this is from an Ikari, it's an awful brand name. Take Kara from Karaoke and put an I at the beginning of it and an O at the end of it. I've got no idea how you pronounce that. Ikaro karaoke machine, okay? These karaoke machines, have you looked at these? Have you got any idea?
I haven't looked.
These karaoke machines are 500 plus quid, and they're small. Oh. They've got a touch screen on them, which probably runs Android. So the Break X2 is there's £100 off voucher on Amazon. So you can get it now at a discount. The Break X2 by a Karaoke is $499. The Break X1 is £699 for a touchscreen, all-in-one karaoke machine with 2 wireless microphones. I don't know what the quality is like, but it doesn't look amazing. And it's just like a little portable speaker, so it's not even a big stereo system. You could buy like a half-decent sound system that would be much bigger for that kind of money. So these aren't cheap products. But that to have firmware version 0.5.33, nearly a 2 gigabyte firmware size, and then the update content is like a mashed keyboard. That's dreadful.
Yeah, no, it's definitely should be doing better with your update notes.
Yeah,
it's probably a good reminder to be a bit clearer with what things are.
Yes.
It just looks fake.
It does.
A bit dodgy.
Yeah, it does. It does. Compromised karaoke machine, which you might scoff, but if it's on your network, and you're downloading malware onto that, then that's got privilege. That karaoke machine lives in a privileged place on your network. So then that can spread far and wide. And, that karaoke machine could be the door in for scattered spider to wreak havoc in your network. So it's another reason as well. Like all these I remember back when Alexa came out and Google Home came out, and we can, you have to kind of trust Amazon and you have to kind of trust Google. But when all these other things came out, everyone wanted to bring them into the office and put them on the network. And this is exactly why you can't just get random IT stuff and chuck it on the network, because it's all vulnerable and people will find a way in.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this has happened. It hasn't happened as far as I know. This is just like a scenario that could happen. Karaoke, whatever their name is, their servers could get compromised, and then someone could put a malicious firmware update out to all their machines. That's happened before.
Yeah.
That's supply chain attack. That's your third party, trusted third parties.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's all we've got time for this week.
Yeah, I think it is. A lot of news stories.
I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. Maybe we'll drop this in at the top of the show. I'll record an extra bit to drop in at the top of the show. Last Thursday, we've released our first awareness angle interview with Erin Gallagher, who doesn't fish. And it was a great conversation. We've received some great feedback on that. So thank you for everyone that's listened. If you want to know why Erin doesn't fish or how she doesn't fish, then that episode is available in our normal podcast stream. But this Thursday, our second awareness angle interview is released. And this is where I had a great conversation with Jasmine from The Zensory. So if you want to find out more about mindfulness and cyber and the reasons why, our primal instincts affect how we do and our mood affects what kind of risky actions we take, we get into it all in that conversation. It was a really, really good conversation. That's the next awareness angle interview that will be released, and that's out on Thursday.
Awesome, yeah. Sounds like a fun one.
Yes, it is. Yeah, really good. Yeah. Right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next week.
Yeah, catch you next time.
Cool. Bye, everyone.